Good evening, welcome in Anand Cuisine classes. Block number 2, block number 1, unit number 2, fundamental notions and principles. 2.0 objectives. Metaphysics is a science in so far as science provides us with sure and evident knowledge of things from their causes. Every science has its own fundamental notions and principles. Metaphysics as a science has also its own fundamental notions and principles. In this unit, you are expected to understand the most fundamental notions and principles Western, the most fundamental principles Indian. 2.1 Introduction. A science is always a logically ordered system, that is, the various parts of a science are logically coherent. One part is justified by another. Science statements are deduced from another. However, this process can go on to infinity. Ultimately, one must arrive at premises that no longer are conclusions of a reasoning process within the limits of a given science, but have their truth established through direct observations by the senses, or their foundations in another science. Somehow every science is bound to have founded fundamental principles that can serve as the foundations stones. In other words, the functions of the fundamental notions and the principles is to supply the basic premises necessary for further development of a science. 2.2 Fundamental notions and principles. Western notion is vague and imperfect concept. Notions are of simple mental content. Principles are of complex mental content. Simplicity is the absence of complexity, and complexity is the union of distinct parts. Notions and principles are also the basic evidence to which through which thought must conform. Principle is that from which something proceeds in any way whatsoever. The definitions implies two things: that the principle is prior to that which proceeds from it, and that there is a special connections between what is called the principle and that which proceeds from it, within virtue of the which the former is to principle of the latter. There are three basic notions: notions of being, notions of actions or operations, and notions of itself. Notions of being is that which is in some way or something. That which is in some way or something is always immediately present in human experience. This experience of being is as undeniable as that fact of the affirmation. Experience of being signifies immediate knowledge, knowledge, the immediate presence of the known to the knower. It is the original form of knowledge. And experience which is not an experience of being would be an experience of nothing, which is an impossibility. Nothing is clearer or simple or more evident than being pre-abundant in many consequences. Hence we can't ask what is the essence or nature of being. For essence and for a nature are already ways of being. It is the essence of being, but not to have any essence as it surpasses and includes all essences. Thus, it is impossible to construct, derive, reduce, or definite being in terms of anything other than itself. Notions of actions. It is in my experience of something I know, that I am implicitly and immediately consequence of the activity of experience itself. Notions of itself. In my experience of something I know, I experience experience. I implicitly and immediately consequence of my own self. The self is a fact of consequence experience, which is both undeniable and inexplicable. When I wake up in the morning, I have to admit that my remembrance or previous knowledge of my past belong to the very same self that I am now. This identity of the self is the the reason why I can synthesize the past and present, but in self it remains an unexplained fact, a simple detail of my personal experience. Furthermore, this identity did not always exist because 42 years ago I did not exist. Principles of truth and affirmations. The principles of truth states that there is truth. Truth is conformity, a correspondence between the mind and the object. It is itself evident that truth exists. For even denying it would admit it. Affirmations is the ascent of the mind to the which is affirmations is the primary form in which the principles of truth manifest itself to us in judgment. These affirmations can be expressed in several ways. There is something is and something exists. The fact of such affirmations is undeniable, and I can't sincerely doubt the fact that I formulate judgments or that I affirm the opposite of affirmations is negations, which ultimately rest of on affirmation. Negations, as we know, is the absence of positive ascent descent. Every negation implies four elements of positive foundations. A positive foundation is an affirmation in the examples that Benson is not an angel. The positive foundations is that he is a man. Proposal to the mind. When we say that Benson is not an angel, angel, there is a proposal or questions of the mind. Is he an angel? Comparisons, there is always a comparison of the proposal. Is he an angel? With our previous knowledge that he is a man. Rejections of the proposal, here the proposal, is he an angel, is rejected by the mind. Principles of identity and distinction is the fact of being one and the same. According to this principle, everything is what it is. Whatever is and whatever is not everything is its own, is being everything it itself, but in a way proportionate to its nature. The principle is implied in all judgments. In the affirmative judgment, I say that I something is, and that it is as it is itself. I affirm a necessary identity of that which I affirm with itself. The particular judgment, this is or I am, contains a general judgments which embraces all judgments. What it is insofar as it is and is what it is. This principle is not a meritology. It is not concerned with such an obvious repetitions as A is equal to A. For the predicate adds to the subject the mode of necessity, which stems from the being of being. The judgment about being as being reveals that being is preciously a being self-sufficient, self-explanatory, and not referring to anything else, and therefore on conditions and necessary. Distinctions is the absence of identity. The principles means that very being is in something very distinct form of the other. Most of our thinking implies distinctions when we make an inference. For example, we draw a conclusion from premises, but in doing so we have to take any distinctions from granted. We have to presuppose the distinctions between the premises and the conclusions we draw from them. We must also distinguish between the subjects and the predicates in both the premises and conclusions. All these are different distinctions. When we draw out conclusions, our attention is directly focused on the conclusions and marginally focused on its relationship to its several premises, but a whole series of distinctions functions in the background. These distinctions are at work even through they are not being explicitly made at the moment we draw or experience inference. Indeed, just to say anything at all, we have to take distinctions for granted. Principles of non-contradictions and excluded middle. An affirmative judgment is a reply to a questions regarding a proper situations or propositions, but a question allows two possible answers, connecting and separating yes or no. The point is whether the judgment which affirms the connections includes the negations of the separations. The reply is that connections and separations of one and the same thing in the same respect, the same mode of being can't go together for only one of the two is true. This logical principle is based on the general ontological insight. The whatever is insofar as it is not that is it can't not be, and it is not what it is not. This principle is based on the all embracing nature of being. Outside being there is only non-being, but non-being can't be done for being extends to everything. It is impossible to predicate to not to be of any being as being. Accordingly, the all embracing affirmations implies the impossibility of the all embracing negations. It is absolutely impossible that there would be nothing. Hence, a thing can be and not be at the same time under the same aspect. The distinguishing mark of the principles is the first at the same time under the same respect. It means from the same standpoint in the same circumstances and other the same conditions. For instance, the statement it is possible for rain to fall and not to fall could be true if we refer to different localities, but it could not be true about the self same rain in the self same locality. It is also true that a boy can be a man if a man that he can be a man at a later period of his life, but a boy can be a man will he is still a boy. The validity of this principle is a precondition of all knowledge. However, the principle is not a mere negation, for in a genuine negation, the subject is never the total unity of whatever is but always a particular being. Being what is denied is not the being of the subject in the absolute sense, but always a particular mode of being. I first often being as being, and then just that certain modes of being are not included and perhaps even positively excluded. In this way there arises the distinctions between the one and the other, since negations always implies affirmations. Human thought will be inclined or to consider principle of non-contradictions as its central principle, just as negations implies affirmations, and the quality of all embracing. So also the principles of non-contradictions implies the principles of identity as prior in itself. The principles of the excluded middle is expressed in different ways by different philosophers. It is an inference from the principles of identity and the principles of contradictions. If it is self-evident, the being is being and non-being is non-being. If it is the self-evident that a thing can be and not be at the same time under the same respect, that then it is also self-evident that there is no middle course possible between being and non-being, no being and non-being. Principles of causality and relations. The principles of causality states whatever happens or becomes must have a cause for its happening or becoming. The expressions whatever happens means whatever beings to be or to exist becomes means whatever passes from a potentiality actuality. Hence the principles can be reformulated as follows: whatever passes from a state of non-existence into a state of existence must have an efficient cause for its existence. Principles of relations comes from the Latin word refer, which means being back, the reference of one thing or to another, and mutual infer direct directedness. It is defined as the bearing reference aspect, attitude, or destinations of one thing to something else. To be it is to be related. Being is the being of beings. As being is the being of beings, it is always related to beings, and all beings are also simultaneously are radically related to being, hence related to being. 2.3 Fundamental notions and principles. Indian principles of truth. Satya etymologically means something and enduring. It is principles of truth states that there is truth, and truth is Triumphant Satyam Meva Jayate. It means that truth is always victorious. For even if someone claims that one has defeated truth, one must imply that it is true that I have defeated truth. Sankara recognized the three levels of Satta or truth. Pratibhasika, Vyavaharika, and Paramarthika. Pratibhasika Sata appears momentarily in illusion and dreams. It is contradicted by normal walking experience. The momentary appearance of a rope as a snake, and mireg as a water, and Pratibhiksa Vyavaharika Sata includes objects of normal walking experience, the particular and changing objects which form the basis of our particular life. Paramarthika Sata is the pure existence which reveals itself through all through all experience. It is neither contradicted nor contradictable. It is attributable only of Brahman. The Madhyamika philosopher recognized two kinds of truth: Samavarti empirical, and Paramartha transcendental. The former is relative and the latter is absolute. Theories of truth. The Alambana Pratibhasa theory. Alambana means foundations of support or objective ground of a perceptual sensory experience. The Buddhist name it is Prataya, gradual conditions on which the arising of a state of a perceptual consequences depends. For example, a visual perception depends upon the visible rupa. My perceptions of red color depends upon red color as its alambana. As long as there is an appearance, pratibhasa is must be rooted in an alambana. In fact, alambana is pratibhasa. The Pramana theory seeks to ground human knowledge in a mode of experience that is immune to failures such as error, illusion, and hallucinations. From this point, it is argued that what appears in every state of our consciousness is mind dependent or internal to consciousness itself. Thus called external world is only a certain of the mind, the stuff of the world is made of consciousness alone. What is emphasized is the essential dependence of what appears in a state of consciousness upon that consciousness itself. The world around us is the world within us. The universal veridical theory. According to this theory, advocated by Prabhakara Mimamsa, all preparation or veridical, it is an error to think that there could be an error. The so-called perceptual error is a fusions or confusions of two different and distinguishable cognitive status in the unusual or mirrors illusions the appearance of what actually belongs to the memory. State will the appearance of this or that it belongs to the perceptual state. The water appearance in memory is rooted eventually in the actual water experience. The Pramanubhada in Buddhism, especially according to Buddhist atomism, the atoms are something like that the data of the sensory perceptual consequences if it is the datum of eye consequences is based upon visual perception it is given the name rupa the visible. Similarly the data of other sense experiences are identified smell taste touch and sound. The material object is a fictional construction out of the sensory atomistic data. The data are substantially real, whereas the material objects such as the pot or table are imagined to be real. The system is basically phenomenistic in the sense that the basic units these atoms are phenomenal elements rather the physical elements. The atoms are not the mere material atoms of the bicycles. The Arthakriya Samabhada theory of the functions of the object, the Sautatika develops this concept in order to distinguish the veridical perceptions from the non-veridical ones, as in the case of the perception of a game on the floor, while perceiving a gem on the floor, I may rush to pick it up but if it is a false perception illusion I will never be able to pick it up. In one case that is occurred with the functions of the object or the kriya. In another there is discord. Thus non-veridical perception is distinguished from the veridical one, but the yogakar is unimpressed by such a pragmatic theory of truth. For him, it begs the questions. It is like the Johansian way of proving that a stone exists by kicking it. The Yogacara theory. The Yogacara assimilate the concepts of Arthakriya into its own systems for if the concept is coherent or the potentially to be so with the accepted behavior pattern that invariably follows the cognitive state, then it is possible for veridical perceptions to systems to meet this requirement even if it does not assume that the object is external to consequences. This is also Yogacara criterion of distinguishing a veridical perceptions from non-veridical one. The former has Arthakriya, while the latter does not. The difference between a true perceptions of one can trade only the real gem for money and not the fake one. The difference is due to the casual history of the origin of the real gem and the fake one. In the same way, the difference between the casual history of veridical perceptions and that of a non-veridical one accounts for the differences in what follows. In either case, that is there is occurrence with the expected behavior pattern in one case and the lack of it in the other. If the real gem and the fake one agree in all conceivable patterns of behavior, then there is title point in calling one real and the other fake unless one is already prejudiced with the idea that one of them is certainty real and the other is not. In other words, one disqualifies oneself to judge the real from the unreal. Science one is already one is already prejudiciated. If however one is already familiar with the casual history of both which determined the issues, then the issues is already resolved on, and one does not need a further arbiter or fourth. Principles of causality karana. The principles of causality means that every event has a cause, or a cause where the whatever happens is made to be happen by a cause, this is view of all the systems of Indian philosophy and philosophy. According to all orthodox systems, the causation is almost a human instinct, but there are different views among the different systems. These views are upheld by the following important theories of causation, which figure prominently in Indian philosophy, with the theory of unreal or apparent productions of the Advaita, Vedanta, Vivarthavada, the theory of dependent originations, Pratitya, Samuttabha of the Buddhist, and fourth, the theory of Rembrandt's productions, Arama or the theory of non-existence of effect in cause, Asastakaravada of the Naya Vaisesika, Satkaryavada or Panyamvada means that the effect is only an explicit manifestation of what was implicit and latent in the cause of Astakaravada or Arambhavada holds the view that effect is a new creation without any prior existence in the cause. The effect is a new beginning. And Arambha, according to Vivarthavada, the effect is only an appearance of the cause. Samakya theory of Panyama, Parinabhada, the Samakya view is found in the famous word of the Gita 2.16. There can be existence of the non-existence and no one existence of the existent. According to this view, an effect is not a new entity. An effect is already contained in its cause unmanifested state, and the productions of an effect merely means its manifestations, since an effect exists in its cause in an unmanifested state, even before its appearance, it is considered to be ever existence at, and hence the Samakya theory of causation is called Satkaryavada, the theory of ever existence effect, as the manifestations of an effect is brought about by a change in the cause, which is conceived as a real change. It is called Parinamavada or Vikaravada, that is a theory of transformations, evolutions from the cause. However, there is an abiding substance which runs through the causal series. For example, when a gold vessel is broken and changed into a different form, the change occurs only in the arrangement of a gold, but not in the substance, that is gold productions means the modifications of the form of the cause. The foundation fundamental stuff which runs through the causal series is neither produced nor destroyed, as it is eternal. The dharma does not change, only the dharmas Bhavas change. The two are in fact identical. If it were not so, anything could arise out of anything. In that case, it would be impossible to make any selections of a particular material for the productions of a particular effect. From these considerations, one can conclude that all the effects have a previous existence in potential forms. The word process does not bring into existence anything new, as it is process process of transformations of the potential Vyakata effects in actual Vyakata affects the whole world. Expect in individual soul is the modifications of the primordial matter, the Prakriti. Vedanta theory of Vivata Bhada. According to this theory, this essence of an effect is identical with the essence of its cause. The difference between cause and the effect consists in the difference between the two forms of the identical stuff. In a causal process, the form of a cause changed into a new form without involving any change in the essence of the causal stuff. Now unless there is change in the essence of the causal stuff, there can't be any real change even in the form of that stuff itself. The evidence therefore hold that what is considered as the real modifications of the causal stuff is only an appearance. The manifold world of different forms and names is not the result or the real modifications of Brahman, the abiding eternal substance, but only a opinion generated by the beginningless with the thus the Parinamavada of Samakhya logically leads to the Vivartavada of Sankara, according to which there is no real productions of the effect. Buddhist theory of a prati pratitya samutva Bhada dependent originations. According to this view, a cause is completely on related without leaving anything behind it, and the effect arises after the annihilations of the cause. The relations between cause and the effect is not antecedent to a consequent in the objectively real world. The occurrence of one moment means the death of the preceding moment. The empirical world is governed by the causal principles asmin sati idam bhavati, this being that arises, and asmin asati idam na bhavati, this is not being that does not arise. It means that the effect arises depending on the cause, and if cause causes the effect also causations is the simply dependent arising. A certain kind of effect invariably comes into existence following upon or as the result of the existence of a certain set of relevant causal conditions. Naya Vaisesika theory of Naya Vaisesika theory of Astakarabhada or Arambhada. The basic principles of the Naya Vaisesika metaphysics is the theory of Dharmiveda, that is the differentiation essence between the substance and their properties. There is absolute difference between a cause and its effect. A cloth, in order to be real, must have an essence different from that of the threads from the ex, existence cause comes into being an effect which was non-existence before. Cause defined by Uddiyana is in an invariable and distance of an effect which is unconditional and necessary. If an unconditional accident which is always present when an effect is present, and absent when an effect is absent, were not regarded as its cause, then the effect would be uncaused. Hence the first essential characteristics of a cause is its attendance to the affect Bhrati. Second, it is invariability. It must invariably precede the effect. Nayata Purabhavriti. The third, it's unconditionally. It must unconditionally or necessarily precede the effect. Ananyathisida Unconditional as attendance is immediate and direct, and direct continues to exist even after its effect. It produced an effect it never produced out of its cause. The cause is a substance which does not transmit its essence to the effect through the effect only. Nothing is in common with the cause, and the former can reside only in the latter. The effect arises in the cause and resides only in the latter. The effect arises in the cause and resides therein by relations of inherent samabhaya, which itself is an entity. Thus, it relates the effect to the cause. It also serves as a way of the wedge and does not let the one merge into the other. Principle of knowledge. Janana. According to this principle, the experience of the human knowledge is an undeniable fact. I know that I know. If I do not know that I know, that I must at least admit that I know that I do not know. In any case, I must admit that I know at least something. Principle of meaning is Spota. For this principle, every letter, word, or sentence is a single, meaningful, eternal, and formal symbol called Spotha. The articulated sounds are merely means by which things meaningful, eternal, and formal symbol is revealed. The term Spotha is derived from the root sput, which means to burst forth, and thus it is defined as one form which meaning burst forth. The theory, the Spothabhada, was developed and systematized by Bhartahari in his work Bhakyapadaya. Principle of negations, Abhava. Thought starts with negations or negative judgment in actual life. If life runs unobstructed, there would be no thought and philosophy. When there is obstructions, either thought must arise or life must become extinct. But life resists existence, and hence thought is produced. Principle of assertions or affirmations, Pratipada. Principles of assertions of affirmation states that various refutations and negations imply some kind of assertions or affirmations on which negations rest. For pure negations can't be the final end or the ultimate limit. Negations must always have some locus or basis or stand on. It can never be in itself. When we negate some kind of being, we always have some other kind of in hand. If we negate every determinate content or object, we can't thereby claim to have negated the objectivity as such. Even if everything is claimed to be negated, how can the negated subject itself be negated? Only may claim to negate even this project, but that would mean a further refit or retreat to the that from the consequences which is aware of the negated subject. No amount of negations can dethrone being from its positions and secure at the place of the latter for itself, since it is not the non-being which is the limit, but the ever ungranted and ungratable being which is the limit, the absolute ground. The affirmation presuppositions of all on which negations rest. Principles of identity. Tatvamsi, it is not means the identity of a thing with itself, but the identity of the individual self with Brahman. Principles of distinctions, Veda. The three types of distinctions are made by the Vedantins: heterogeneous distinctions, Vijatya Bheda, by which one being is distinct from beings of other groups. Example: a cow is distinct from a horse. Homogeneous distinction, Satya, Sajatya Bheda by which a being is distinct from other members of its own group. Example: one cow is distinct from another cow. Internal distinctions are Sabhagata Bheda by which one part of being is distinct from its other parts. Example: the distinctions between the tail and leg of the same cow. Ramanuja denies heterogeneous and homogeneous distinctions in God, but maintains internal distinctions in him with consequous and consequous substances. Principles of contradictions. Viruddha. The principle states that a certain doctrine having been accepted, the probans contradictory to it is probans is the which is contradictory to the which has been admitted. The definitions means that which contradicts or sets aside an admitted fact, and that which is contradicted or set aside by an admitted fact. Contradictions is taken to hold in all those cases where two more or more sentences can't be true together. This table is read and this table is not read can't both be true at the same time. At the same time, the sentences are regarded as regular contradictory, not because read and not read as opposed to each other, but because these two sentences are used with regard to the same object other or under the same respect. Principles of exclusion of poha. A word expresses its meaning by excluding all its oppositions. For example, the word elephant excludes all beings that are not elephants. Principles of fullness. Puranam. The principles of fullness states the fullness comes from fullness. Fullness means fullness equals fullness. Isa of invocations that is fullness. This is fullness. This is fullness from the fullness. The fullness has come out when this fullness is taken from that fullness. What remains is fullness. Peace. Principle of order. RTA. This principle enunciates the fact that we have an ordered universe by RTA. RTA literally means the course of things. It is the immanent law of things. The whole universe is founded on RTA and moves in it. It is the inviolable moral order of the world. Principles of presumptions. Orthopathy. It consists in the assumptions of some unperceived fact in order to explain apparently inconsistent facts. For example, from the fact of Jordan is alive and is not present in the house, we presume that he is elsewhere. Principles of momentariness. Cause Sanika. Everything changes from moment to moment. Existence of the world is continuous but decay, and there the world is in constant flow, and the objects of the world and subject to the change and decay. All things changes. There is nothing human or divine that is permanent. Sarabham Sanikam. Principles of indescribability. Sunya. The word sunya ordinarily means void or empty. A void or empty. Accordingly to Madhyasikara, sunya means indescribability, avachya or ana, anabhalavya, as it goes beyond the powers of the intellect. It transcends all the four well-known categories of the intellect as the existence, nasty, non-existence, ubhaya, both, and navaya, neither. It also means that there is a transcendental reality about which nothing positive or negative can be asserted. Principles of creative power. Maya. It is the real. It is the real power of principles by which is the world is created. It makes the indeterminate Brahman determinate. It is the principles of the determinations of Brahman. It is different from the or ignorance by which an individual identifies oneself wrongly with the evaluates of Prakriti, body, senses, mind, etc. Principles of indeterminate and determinate कल्पका एवं सविकल्पक ordinary perceptions is of two kinds nirvikalpaka and sarvikalpaka. The perceptual knowledge immediately is resulting from sense object contact is of the nature is mere acquaintance Alochana with the object and is called determinate perceptions nidhi. Vakalpaka immediately after arises the determinate perceptions of the objects are be kalpaka and intimate perception is a simple absence in which one has a merry experience of something. It is a judgment without words. Determinate perception is the predicative knowledge of one object in which the knowledge gained by the arrangement is analyzed into universal and particular and the two are related by way of predictions. The relations of subject and subject is involved in a determinate Principles of liberations, moksha, thinking results in attachment results in desire results in anger results in delusion results in confusions results in lust, discriminations, which and selves on. Hence, all beings are oriented towards liberations. That being is liberated is realized oneself to the Brahman detached from all things. When one has the experience of being identified with Brahman, Aham Brahm Asami.